Good evening. It's such a pleasure to have all of you here. So I know that this is a wonderful occasion for everyone to get together, and we're just about ready to have a few remarks, and then we'll return to dinner. So I'm Barbara Shaw. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and it's my pleasure to be able to welcome you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. With us tonight are students who are supported by the scholarships, the generous individuals who've donated funds for these scholarships, alumni, faculty, and friends. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to acknowledge members of the Arts and Sciences National Council who are here with us tonight. They will be meeting tomorrow morning, and these are a group of leaders, friends of the university, who advise the dean, that would be me, on a multitude of issues that affect arts and sciences. They meet twice a year, and they come from all over the United States. And they've been central in moving arts and sciences forward. Would the National Council members please stand and receive our thanks? Thank you. And also with us this evening is Chancellor Mark Righton. Mark and his spouse, Risa, of course, have been absolutely central for the amazing progress that Washington University has made over the last 25 years. They're both champions of arts and sciences, and they support multiple scholarships for which we are all deeply grateful. Mark, would you stand and receive our thanks? So our purpose this evening is to celebrate this year's talented scholarship recipients and the generous scholarship donors who support them. Tonight's program is going to illustrate the scope and the profound impact of our scholarship program on all of our students. And it is one of two events which are particularly special for arts and sciences. Tonight we celebrate our students and your support for them. But in April of this year, we hold the Distinguished Alumni Awards, an evening that celebrates the spectacular achievements of our students that happens after they leave Washington University. Scholarship support for arts and sciences has grown significantly in the last 84 years. One of the first arts and sciences scholarships, the Irene V. Lichter Fellowship in French, was established by John Lichter way back in 1935. This year, Arts and Sciences has awarded more than 800 named scholarships to students. Many of the alumni who receive scholarships as students give back by becoming scholarship donors themselves, and you're going to hear from one such alumna, Nicole Kaplan, later this evening. Advancing efforts to broaden educational access and improve diversity, equity, and inclusion are top priorities for Arts and Sciences and the university. At his inauguration earlier this month, Chancellor Andrew Martin announced the WashU Pledge, a new financial aid program. This pledge will provide a free undergraduate education to admitted incoming full-time Missouri and Southern Illinois students who are eligible for Pell Grants or who are from families with annual incomes of less than $75,000. This is a great and an important initiative and a giant step in helping us expand the educational access to recruit the best and the brightest, regardless of their ability to pay. In spite of this very generous program, we still need and we must have more support for scholarships to meet the financial needs of every student that is admitted to Washington University. Too many talented students still turn down our offer of admission for financial reasons. Our goal is to eliminate financial need as a barrier to a Washington University education. My husband and I, Joe, established our family scholarship many years ago, and like many of you, being a scholarship donor brings us a great deal of joy, pleasure, and a feeling of accomplishment to see how these students have gone on to medical school, professional schools over the years. Meeting our scholarship student each year, learning about their experiences, plans for their lives and careers, reinforces our knowledge and that a great education is a life-transforming experience. We're grateful to all of you for your commitment to arts and sciences and to our extraordinary students. At this point, we're going to break for dinner. It's always a good idea. Please enjoy your dinner and the conversation at your tables, and our program will continue after dessert. Everyone seems to be having a wonderful time, and this really is one of the great opportunities for our sponsors and for our students to get to know each other. Before we move on, first I want to thank our student pianist, Alicia Jazinani, who is a She has played beautifully all evening. She's a member of the class of 2021 from West Palm Beach, Florida, and she is majoring in music performance and computer science. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our newest students, the class of 2023. Students in this year's freshman class come from 47 of the U.S. states, plus Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. 64% are from more than 500 miles away, and 9% are international students from over 20 different countries. They were selected from a pool of over 25,400 applicants for their academic promise, their ability to succeed at, and to contribute to Washington University. 159 of them are first in their families to attend college. That's about 9% of the class. 269 are eligible for a federal Pell Grant. That's about 15% of the class. And 23% of the class are U.S. students who are members of an underrepresented minority group. 86% of the freshman class were in the top 10% of their high school class. And our arts and sciences undergraduates are pursuing 76 different undergraduate majors. And our graduate students are enrolled in over 40 master's, doctoral, and certificate degrees. All of these students are active contributors to student life. There's 380 undergraduate student groups and more than 150 graduate student groups on campus. And 1 in 3 of our undergraduates study abroad for over 50 programs. That's a lot of numbers. What it really means is every year we're excited to welcome our freshman class and to see the amazing things that we'll do as students, from volunteering in inter-city clinics, conducting research in our laboratories, creative writing, and performance in students' plays and music ensembles, and that's just a little bit of what they do. So each year, we ask one arts and sciences sponsor, donor, to share their experience and their motivations for supporting scholarships. Nicole Kaplan, our speaker this evening, is originally from New York. Nicole was training to compete in gymnastics at the 1988 Seoul Olympics when an injury altered the course of her life. College admission deadlines were very long past due, but Washington University, WashU, not only admitted her, but also offered her a scholarship to attend. Nicole came here, she majored in economics, earned an MBA from Columbia University, and she's a founding partner of Silent Spring Ventures, a private equity firm in Boca Raton, Florida. To this day, she remains close friends with her scholarship donor, Eric Righton, and she created her own scholarship to Washington U in his name. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Dean Shaw. It's actually really fabulous to be here tonight with this incredibly generous and incredibly talented audience. Last year you heard Peter Steffen talk with amazing detail and specificity about really the burdens and constraints that come with student debt and the freedoms and the choices that are available to you when you're unencumbered. He was, and obviously still is, so right. So I'm going to try a little bit different tack this year and tell a little bit more personal story about really generosity and gratuity. I will warn you, I've done this a couple of times. I've never actually been able to get through the end without crying. So if you can just be a little generous with me, if I choke up a little bit, I'll try and breathe through it, but I'm warning you. So my story begins in, kind of a familiar place, right? A choice among WashU and other, less desirable schools where more affordable. I hid my state acceptance letter and begged and pleaded, and when that didn't work, pulled out the whole tears thing with Dad, and he finally broke. So my mom and I really quickly filled out all the forms and got the applications in, and so one part family contribution, one part student debt, one part scholarship, and I left for WashU in the fall of 1988. So my scholarship was, as the dean mentioned, made possible by the Samuel and May Righton Foundation on behalf of their son, Eric, who had previously attended Washington University. So fast forward about, 5 months or so, and I went home during Christmas break to New York, where the Rightons live, and I called up Righton Management, right? So I figure I'm just kind of, calling up this, family real estate office. So the Righton Management owns and operates 40 million square feet of premier New York City real estate, of which I was very blissfully unaware, and this is probably a good thing. And I just kind of called up and said, hey, can I take Eric out to lunch? Say thank you, right? Hey, is the founder's son there? What's he up to? And so, full disclosure, I used to actually buy plane tickets home on like Wednesday before Thanksgiving break, knowing that when you got to the airport, TWA would be horribly, horribly overbooked. You could always count on them giving you kind of a check in a flight home Thursday morning. I used to literally go to the airport without luggage because you knew it was going to happen. Somehow Eric's secretary said yes and, booked lunch. And I put on my best little Evan Picone suit and my, faux silk shirt with the so-so 80s bow, right, and the big hair and the boxy, and the shoulder pads and the whole thing. And I show up looking really eager and earnest at his office, and TW and I treated, Eric to lunch at some incredibly banal midtown restaurant. And he's wonderful. He's very, very gracious. He has an incredibly easy smile, and he made me feel comfortable. And so even though he was kind of born to great wealth and great social status, he was really taught early by his dad that life is about service. And so he very graciously entertained this very eager 18-year-old girl at lunch. And it became like a thing. Every time I came home for Christmas or the summer, I would take Eric out to lunch for the next basically 3.5 years. And I prattled on and on about my classes and my sorority and my tennis matches. And when I finally took an urban planning course, we actually got to talk about real estate. And I told him all of my fabulous theories about how things should be designed. And he told me about the practicalities of working with, planning boards and NIMBY issues and all that good kind of real world stuff. And this very wonderful billionaire let me pay for lunch every time I wanted to say thank you. So this is the part I get a little, right? So in May of '92, on the eve of my graduation, I actually got a note from basically the Righton Foundation. And, okay, breathe. I'm paraphrasing, but it basically read, Dear Nicole, we have been sponsoring the scholarship at Washington University for many, many years, and you are the first recipient who actually reached back out to us, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you. Please accept, as our graduation gift, the repayment of your student debt. Yeah. I did it. Apparently all you really need to do in life is say thank you. So it's been over 25 years, and since then, I'm really, really glad to say that Eric and I have actually stayed friends. We've had dozens and dozens of lunches and dinners, and our holiday cards span celebrations of births and graduations and ups and downs in life. I will say this, he never then let me pay, and he always picked the restaurants after that. So at this point in my life, my family and I can actually finally formally thank Eric and the Rightons by dedicating the scholarship that we're doing for the university to them. So we feel like we've got a chance to come full circle on it. And so if I can just ask all the students in this room to do two things. The first is so easy and so powerful. Just say thank you. You really don't have to do much more than that. Just remember to say thank you. And the second is if you can actually kind of see yourself literally standing in my place 25 years later. Pay it forward, pay it down, pay it any way you want. Use any cliche you want to use. I don't care how you say it. But let's try and let everyone in this room create stories of generosity and gratitude. Thanks.
First, thank you, Nicole. And then, of course, we want to recognize the students in the video. Dietrich Henderson. Shayna Finkelstein. And Anna Conradi. In addition to hearing from students in the video, each year we ask one student to share in their own words what receiving a scholarship has meant to them. Our speaker this evening is Dorian Dubose. He is a junior from the class of 2021. He's majoring in philosophy and minoring in sociology and Spanish, and he's from the Kansas City area. And Dorian's mother, Ms. Jaquita Jackson, is here with us this evening, and we are so happy that you could join us. Welcome. Dorian is the recipient of the Sarah L. Johnson Scholarship, supported by Kathleen Wildman. Dorian?
Hello. I knew when I arrived at WashU that I was going to leave here with a BS degree. At the time, I thought it would be a bachelor's of science, not a degree in philosophy. When I arrived at WashU, I thought I'd be a chemistry major. I had an amazing chemistry teacher in high school, and I enjoyed my first chem class at WashU. But every other aspect of my life was pointing me in other directions. I'm on the mock trial team. I write for the school newspaper. I didn't have STEM interest outside of class, yet I was going to devote 4 years and maybe my entire life to the field. When I told my mother I was changing my major from chemistry to philosophy, I could hear her trying to hide the disappointment that naturally crept into her voice. I could hear the question she desperately wanted to ask. What job will that get you? How long will you need to live on my couch? I could hear those get caught in her throat as she coughed out her feeble acceptance. But I could also hear how proud she was of me. I could hear how happy she was at the child that she had strong-armed into debate classes. Her stubborn baby boy was forging a path of his own choosing. I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. It is a beautiful city with a lively and welcoming personality, but it is also a segregated city. The schools in the city receive fewer resources to deal with more problems. In the suburbs, the school districts were nationally renowned. In 2004, my mom made the decision to move her family, which was me, my sister, and herself, to the suburbs before I started kindergarten. Going to school in the suburbs is a challenging but rewarding experience. I learned early on in school that I was smart, if not also modest and humble with a great personality. But I also learned early on that I was not like my classmates. Rarely was I invited into their homes. When we started learning even the smallest details of America's racial history, I felt my classmates' eyes fall on me. In third grade, when a classmate asked me why my skin was dirty, for the first time in my life, I felt less than. When I got home that day and I told my mom, she turned it into a lesson on pride, both in myself and who I come from. She taught me to keep my chin up in the face of those who try to look down on me. Moving to the suburbs was also a challenge for my mom. She had given up a comfortable life in Kansas City to struggle to pay the bills in Johnson County. Our housing was more expensive. Our food was more expensive. Years later, I would find out more about the trials that my mom faced. I would learn about how she sacrificed so my sister and I could have enough. I would learn about how she worked overtime in her postal supervisor role in addition to her role as a full-time parent. I didn't know that it wasn't normal for parents to drive 45 minutes to take their kids to the best school. I didn't know that my mom was bending over backwards to give us the life she knew we deserved. She put some of the best years of her life into raising us, and no amount of gratitude I could express would ever repay her. But what I remember most about my mom in my childhood was her sense of humor. She's as goofy as she is witty. She found the best in bad situations, and even when things were down, she never let us feel bad about them. I'd like to think that some of that toughness rubbed off onto me and my sister, but I still pray before getting flu shots. But that's probably a bit wishful. My mom always knew my path better than me. In my freshman year of high school, when I wanted to take both PE and weights and become the best defensive lineman Olathe North has ever seen, my mom, realizing that she's 5'3" on her tiptoes, and I'd already beat the odds by being 5'9", took me out of both classes and put me in debate. I resented her for it. I thought I could have been good on the high school football field. But she knew that I could be a great speaker and debater. And by the time my junior year rolled around, I had reached the potential she thought I had. And I had learned to love it. I found out that I got into WashU while I was at work. I was supposed to be getting carts from an area in the far corner of the IKEA parking lot. Instead, I opened my email to see that my application status had been updated. And I was so excited when I found out I had been accepted. I was euphoric when I opened my financial aid package and saw that I could afford to go here. So I called my mom while I was on the clock to tell her the good news, and she excitedly told me to get back to work. But when I got home, and when we could talk about it face to face, I was proud that I had earned a spot in an institution like this, and even prouder that my mother didn't have to shoulder the load for me coming here. My undergraduate experience at WashU has been phenomenal. It is an honor to call you all my peers. It is a privilege to call some of the foremost experts in their fields my professors, and it is a blessing to call this place, one of the premier institutions in the world, my home. None of this would have been possible if not for my scholarship. I have been fully able to focus on my studies instead of worrying about paying tuition. I can focus on finding something fulfilling where I feel like I am making a difference. Knowing that I will graduate debt-free makes a little uncertainty more acceptable for my mom. This year, I'm applying to the Brown School of Social Work. Over the last 2 years, I've become passionate about helping homeless populations. I would not have explored those passions if I was concerned with being able to afford being here. But that is my story. Each student in here tonight has one just as important. And none of those stories will be possible without the support provided by our sponsors. To all the donors in attendance, thank you for your contributions to my future and the future of my peers. And to my sponsor, Kathleen Wildman, Sarah L. Johnson, and the family of Sarah L. Johnson, thank you for all you allow me to do. Thank you.
Well, as you can see, our students are just simply amazing, and we could be doing this all day long, and we would hear just these wonderful stories about these amazing students that are allowed to come to WashU because of the work and the support that you give them. Thank you, Dorian. That was absolutely spectacular. I think Dorian and all of our students represent so well the many students that receive scholarship support. We can't wait to see what all of you will do with your lives, with your WashU education, and we have no doubt you're going to make us proud and that you're going to be incredibly successful. I want to thank everyone for attending, and thank you for your support of the scholarships for our amazing students, and thank you, scholarship recipients, for the wonderful work that you do. And the last thing I want to say to the students, and I want to reiterate what Nicole said, we expect to see you here in 20 years when you come back to campus. You're going to be sitting with your own scholarship students at this very event. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Good night.